This video is sponsored by Manscaped. Okay, let's start this video off quite satisfyingly and get this interior clean. If you're new here and you're wondering what the hell is going on with this car or the interior, well, this 140i was stolen and we think that it was being sprayed with fire extinguisher on the inside to cover whoever stole its fingerprints. In the last video I fitted an M2 front end to it, which looks pretty weird at the minute. One, because it's a different colour, and two, because the wheels completely are hidden inside, and well, these wheels aren't even off a 140i. We think the auction just plonked them on, but for now, this interior needs to be clean, which is why we've got Slick's Car Care to come and tackle it. Like you guys know, if you watch my videos, I normally tackle everything myself. Apart from cleaning, I'm pretty sure I would just make this thing work. So these guys cleaned the Golf before, which was in a state, so I'm sure they can tackle the 140i. So let's get straight into it. Okay, let's get this interior back to looking how it should be. I'll remove the seats for the guys, then I let them attack the car for the full day. Now, I don't know any technical details about detailing, but that Hoover looks like it's doing a pretty good job. Now, we still can't exactly confirm exactly what the dust is, so the lads have always got the gloves on and the masks. Safety first. That dust has got absolutely everywhere, even in the roof lining. The worst place is all behind the switches and the buttons in the centre console, but the steamer seems to be doing a pretty good job of getting it all out there. Chris mentioned to me afterwards that when it had dried, the dust just kept coming back, so we had to go over it over and over again. Now, moving on to the seats. I'm not a massive fan of the 140i seats anyway, and I think I may be replacing them at a future stage. But Chris seems to be doing a pretty good job at restoring them and getting them back to the colour that they should be. Back to attacking the door cards with a steamer. Then onto the rear seats. And yes, it's starting to come together already. That little special brush seems to be doing the trick. Straight onto the floor mats, bit of shampooing, and the all-important lines in the carpet. And the 140i is looking fresh again. Would you look at that? It is literally a different car in here. It is so fresh and so clean. So a massive shout out to Slicks for tackling that job, and as a thank you, they're giving you guys 10% off any detailing work that you guys need. The link's in the description for them. Now, before Chris from Slick's Car Care left, I had to ask him something. How do I keep it this clean and this fresh? And you know what he said?
Manscaped.
And he's right. You can keep your nose and ear hairs trim and fresh with Manscaped's Weed Whacker. It has a powerful 9,000 RPM motor with a 360-degree rotary dual blade system. Plus, it's water resistant, which makes it easy for wet or dry operation. And as a bonus, it has a rechargeable battery which lasts up to 90 minutes. And this is only one of Manscaped's amazing products. I've got plenty. So if you want to grab yourself a Weed Whacker or some of the other products from Manscaped, like me and Chris, the link is in the description box below. And also, if you use code Armstrong20, you're going to get 20% off plus free international shipping. Thanks Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Right, let me show you the can of worms we've opened by doing this M2 front end. Okay, so before I try and start figuring out what exactly I'm going to do with the rear of this car and what exactly I'm going to do with these side skirts, which are coming up short because of the M2 wing, and they're also, well, not the right shape either, let's proceed and carry on where we left off from, which was on the front end. Okay, so quite surprisingly, the M2 front end actually went on pretty easily. It was just a bolt-on job. The wing, the bonnet, the bumper, and even the headlights. And the headlights have even the same plug as the 140i. The problem is, they don't work. So I obviously had the problem with the M4 when plugging the M3 headlights in, that they wouldn't work, but it turns out the wires were completely different and they needed repinning. I actually ended up buying M4 new headlights for it to make it even work. But that may not be the case with the M2. Apparently, well, fingers crossed you can just plug these in and then they can be coded to the car, so the car knows that it's got M2 headlights. Now, coding a car is something that I have no experience in, and it's not something I'm willing to give it a go because we can make some seriously expensive mistakes if it goes wrong. So I leave that to Zedcoding, who coded the power steering on the BMW M4. We need internet to do this, so I'm going to go and nick Mallory Performance's internet. So all I needed to do with this is plug in the OBD cable, plug the other side into my laptop, sit there and let Zedcoding do the rest of it. And in minutes, one headlight started working. And give it 2 more minutes, the other headlight started working. Yes, and that is that sorted. Both headlights are now working. It took 20 minutes and I have no idea what it did, but my laptop was being controlled by Zedcoding. Absolute legend for that. It's always worth getting that sort of job done by somebody else who knows what they're doing, because I would definitely have messed that one up. Right, now onto the stuff that, well, I can do or I'm going to attempt to do. Let's get it back in the unit. Side skirts. Let's sort that issue out. These are the 140i side skirts. They are a little bit too short for the M2 wing, and they're also, well, not the right shape. There's a few options I could have done with this. One was cut and probably make it a little bit longer. I don't know how good I would have done that, I'm not too sure. And it's also the wrong shape as well, I'm not quite sure. And the other option would be somehow to make M2 side skirts work on it. So I got M2 side skirts off Z. The chap I bought the M2 front end off. He's got a full M2 for braking, so we may be needing them in the future. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, there's only a handful of people, if that, who have done an M2 conversion on a 140i, so I don't really know who to ask, or there's no videos to sort of go off, so I'm just sort of winging it as I go along. And this is the problem that I know we're going to have with this M2 side skirt. The M2 is obviously a coupe or a coupe, and the 140i is a hatchback. Now inside, the side skirts actually go in here, like that's where they clip in, and this, well, you can see it's already different, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wing it, give it a go, see if we can somehow make it work. Maybe we'll have to do a bit of cutting, or I don't know, let's just go for it. So after taking the old side skirt off and comparing it to the M2 one, I could see how different it was, and for sure some cutting is definitely going to be needed, but it does fit really nice on the front. Yes, that's me with an angle grinder cutting an M2 side skirt, which cost me £200. But do things like this even shock you anymore? You guys have been watching me long enough to know that we just send it anyway. Bit of cleaning up and I put it straight back onto the 140i, but not without an issue. Right, so we're at a bit of a predicament here. So this is the M2 side skirt. It fits absolutely banging at the front, fits nice, looks a bit more aggressive than the 141, pokes out a bit wider. Obviously when we come to the rear, it's obviously the M2 is a little bit wider than the 140, so it's, well, it's poking out a bit, and it's also a little bit longer at the back there. And then when you open the door, I've obviously cut this here, so I'd need a bit of plastic or something putting in there, which is no problem, but I don't know, this is where I'm stuck at the minute. I'm kind of thinking what would be easier, because that doesn't look like it's gonna, well, work. I'm thinking, what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is put the original 140 side skirt on, make a cut from here on the M2 one, and then plastic weld that to this one, and then we obviously have some sort of Frankenstein side skirts with a bit of white on the front. Whether that'll work or not, there's probably a million and one of you all screaming saying, no, don't do that now, but that's the best way I can see I'm good. Do you know what, I'm sending it, I'm doing it. Well, this is what it came to, buying a side skirt just to use a tiny bit of the front of it. Now I had to cut it a little bit further forward than I originally wanted to, because the lines on the 140i side skirt didn't quite line up with the M2 side skirt. Then it was time to cut off the end of the 140i side skirt. then add part of the M2 side skirt to it. I then plastic welded the hell out of it. This is definitely not a how-to video, and I'm just winging it as I go along. But it seems to be working. Ish.
I've been on road, I'm on go, but nothing is better than home. Clicking my heels like I'm Dorothy. I need new hobbies, it's boring me. Play all my kids and it's water me. I see new loafers, I'm ordering.
And before you thought it couldn't get any worse, time to glue the back of it to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Then to finish off, a bit of plastic filler to fill the gap between.
Head of the house like the head of state. Bring home the cash in the dinner plate.
And once I sanded it a bit, it finished off like this. Okay, one thing's for sure. It's a good job I'm a YouTuber because I would never get a job at a body shop. So we've got the right hand side here. After ages of rubbing down, it's actually quite smooth now, and I don't actually think it will look too bad once it's all painted, but I don't know. I've never done anything like this before, but it's worth trying. And again, the left hand side here, which is now nice and smooth, but I think it looks pretty weird now, but once it's painted or it's wrapped, I don't think it will look too bad, fingers crossed. But you know what? I don't think you should ever take the piss out of someone for giving something a try or giving something a go for the first time. I think most of the best things in this world have came from people who have just given something a try that they've never done before. Yes, you could give them help and advice, but taking a piss, I just don't feel it's right. I think if you put enough hard work into anything, you'll get good results. Hence, the Hard Works Beats Talent collection on my website. Okay, now moving on to the rear. It obviously came with no rear bumper. Now these tail lights here, I have found them. They were inside the boot, and I think the badge is in the boot as well. And I have found the reverse camera as well, which is a bonus. Now, as we have the M2 front end on here now, which is a little bit wider than the 140i front end, I know you guys have been dying for me to do the M2 rear end. But the M2 rear end isn't as easy as the front end. Now, as we've said many times before, the M2 is a coupe, this is a hatchback. The back of the car is completely different to the M2. Now, we have sort of two options here. Number one is the people that have done this sort of conversion before have been legitimate body shops, good ones in fact. They know how to weld, cut, filler and fit a rear quarter of an M2 on a 5-door hatchback. They then put the standard 140i bumper on, but cut part of the M2 bumper out on the side to make it match up with the rear quarter of the M2, which is going to be attached to the 140i, if that makes sense. But there is another option, which we might be able to do ourselves. In fact, there might be two options, but we're going to try option one first, which would be to put a standard 140i rear end on this, but then try and flare the arches out as wide as we can to sort of match the front so it doesn't look as mismatch. So here's a rear bumper that I got off eBay, a 140i bumper, which was £150. It's the same colour as the car. In fact, it might actually have been the one that was removed off this car. Who knows? But end of the day, it's back in the right hands now. Let's put this on the car and then see what we can do about the rear arches. Let's go. So first step is to plug all the parking sensors into the rear bumper and the rear registration lights as well. Then we can clip the bumper in place and it's looking pretty smart. Then the BMW badge needs to go on the boot along with the rear lights as well. Then I needed to lift the 140 and put the final fixings in for the bumper, then on to option one. Say hello to option one. This thing is a good old arch roller, 20 quid off eBay. They're not necessarily used to flare arches, they're more used to squash the inner arch in so you can get more clearance on your wheels to stop rubbing. I'm gonna maybe try and push it out to see if I can flare the arch a little bit. If I mess it up or I mess the arch up, we're probably going to have to do option two. Now it says in the instructions here that I should use safety goggles. I don't have any goggles, but I've got goggles. Let's do it. Now this thing connects to the hub of the car, then you can tighten it against the arch and roll it around the arch to push the arch out. I use a heat gun just to make sure it doesn't actually dent or crease the arch. But after minutes, I realised I was fighting a lost cause. Okay, all that is really doing is pushing the outer lip out a tiny bit. It's not flaring it, it's not what I expected, but well, which kind of only leaves us with one other option now. But before we get on to the last option, some carbon parts have arrived. Yes, we have got a carbon rear diffuser for the 140i from Carbon Accents, and also a spoiler as well for it. Let's fit these on because I'm too excited. I just want to get these on the car and see what they look like, and then we're going to talk about well, the last and final option we have with this 140i. First, I had to drill some holes for the reflectors, then I could screw them into the rear diffuser. They keep closing in. Then the diffuser fits pretty easily on the rear bumper, it just clips into place. I've used Carbon Accents a lot for all the carbon on my previous cars, so I've put a link for them in the description box below with the discount code as well. Something to light up a spark again. So lift me up. Then I need to degrease the rear spoiler before gluing the new carbon one to it. It's time to say goodbye, leave it all in store, don't hurry. And the fitment is looking mint. I decided to get rid of the gloss black mirror caps and replace them with the carbon ones as well to match the rear spoiler and the new diffuser. Then back on with the wheels, then I could roll the 140i out of the unit before showing you option 2/3. Now this right here is option 3, a Chinese special wide arch kit for a BMW 1 Series, but would only be using the rear arches. There's a few issues with this. The first issue is that it is a wide arch kit and it may make the rear almost too wide and then it make the front look out of proportion. And the other issue is that it's 1,500 quid and we have to wait about a month to get it, which puts the whole project on hold. But I don't know, do we carry on modifying it as it is and see what it looks like at the end, or do we just full send it? Now if we are going to full send it, I'm definitely going to need your guys' support by hitting the subscribe button, hitting the thumbs up button on every video, or going to grab yourself any of the merchandise on the website, including the new key rings as well. But saying that, we've made some really good progress on the 140i/M2 today. The headlights and side lights are obviously now working. We've got all the carbon mirrors and we've got the carbon rear spoiler as well, which makes the rear look a lot more aggressive, and with that carbon diffuser as well, that is looking sick. I'm thinking we get some side skirt extensions to go along the bottom to make it look more aggressive as well, and probably a front splitter. We've got the side skirts sorted. They're a little bit longer now. They do look a bit iffy there, but maybe when they're all one colour it might not look so bad. I don't know. Excuse the wheels, they're an absolute myth. We don't know what we're going to do with them. And of course the interior is now dust free and looking nice and clean. So again guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's getting crazier and crazier as we go along. I guess I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.